1848 was a historic year. Overseas, it was a year of revolutions. Governments were toppled, kings abdicated. So, the dedication of a small church in rural North Carolina in March of that year would seem to have been less than newsworthy. Actually, that little church created quite a stir. It was an anti-slavery church in the heart of the slave-holding South in the days before the Civil War. A Wesleyan Methodist minister who loved God and hated slavery had accepted a call to pastor a new congregation of Southern Christians who had taken the same courageous stand. Adam Crooks was just 23 years of age and newly ordained when he arrived in North Carolina. And as abolitionists, Crooks and his congregation of 40 quickly became the targets of abuse. He was attacked by mobs. He was threatened with lynching. He was poisoned twice. And he was unlawfully imprisoned. Through it all, he repeatedly asked himself the same question in the journal that he was keeping. Can you give your life for the cause? Despite the risks, the new congregation never wavered. Determined to build a church and unwilling to wait for better weather in the spring, they broke ground in the snow camp community of what is now Alamance County during the winter months of 1847-48. The name they chose was Freedom's Hill, a fitting designation for a place of worship which would proclaim freedom for slave and sinner alike and would become a station on the Underground Railroad. Freedom's Hill was a simple structure, standing on a foundation of field stones. It was constructed without the use of mortar, and the logs were fastened by wooden pegs instead of nails. So were the hand-hewn pews, which in the beginning were only benches without backs. The original windows were only wooden shutters, and the building was not heated at first. Eventually, glass windows would be added and a wood stove installed. The only decoration in the church was provided by the bullet holes riddling the front door, a reminder to all that their presence was unwelcome. But the building proved to be as strong as its builders. For almost a century, it served the generations of its founding families and the townsfolk that they reached with the gospel. When a more up-to-date and comfortable chapel was built nearby, the old church, almost hidden in a grove of trees, was largely forgotten. Credit for its recovery goes to Pastor Dick Kinchy, his youth pastor Mike Engel, and the congregation of Neighbors Grove Wesleyan Church in nearby Asheboro, North Carolina, who organized its restoration in 1973. And also to the North Carolina West District of the Wesleyan Church, which relocated the church to their district campgrounds as a living museum. When eventually those grounds were sold, Freedom's Hill needed a new and more permanent home. Through the visionary leadership of President David Spittle, that new home proved to be Southern Wesleyan University in central South Carolina. So in 1999, the old church was carefully disassembled with every board marked for accurate reconstruction on the campus. Here it stands in a place of honor, hosting religious services, providing a place for prayer and quiet reflection, even doubling as a classroom on special occasions. Our senior ministry majors are commissioned around its altar. So now in 2023, we salute this historic church on its 175th anniversary, and we marvel at its survival. Its enemies could easily have burned it down. Its friends could have dismantled it after it was no longer needed for worship. And yet, defying logic, it still stands as a landmark of Christian conscience and courage. Could it be that God Himself has preserved this church? Because now, all these years later, we still need to hear what it would say to us. That true freedom is found in loving God and loving others in a world that seems to have largely forgotten how to do both. Freedom's Hill is holy ground.